Hello and welcome to the seventh episode of Machine Guns in Your Movies podcast. I'm Sasha.
And I'm Joel, and rest in peace, Gene Hackman. You had a one hell of a career, and it's 95 is a very good long time to have. But honestly, I'm just really curious what's going on. It's turning into a very odd mystery. It's fascinating that his final moments on the Earth have turned into themselves into quite a mystery as to what we have no idea what's going on there. But it was very
Mhm.
tragic to hear of his demise all the same. And yes,
You're
today we'll
right,
be
yeah.
speaking about Lucifer Rising by Kenenth Anger.
Yeah.
It was released in, actually, I'm not quite certain. Sasha, when was the release date again?
1981. Yeah, today we were not going to talk about Gene Hackman movie. We were going to do in one of the following episodes because we think it's better to follow the schedule that we planned before. But yeah, today we are talking about Kenneth Anger's short experimental film Lucifer Rising, released in 1981, but it was shot from the mid 60s until the basically mid 70s. So yeah, and released finally in 1981 because of the many things that I will mention, the many problems that I might some of them will mention in the podcast.
But
Yeah.
that's actually interesting you mentioned that because you can really tell that the movie has like a more of a retro feel. Like you when you said 81, I was almost shocked and taken aback. But it's like no,
Mhm.
that actually what you said, the trivia you just mentioned makes perfect sense because it very
Yeah.
much looked like an older film, like older stock and like the styles and haircuts and everything, like the
Mhm.
60s and 70s. But an interesting twist. We'll get into it. Well, right about now, but it actually gives this film a more a disjointed feel. Like when you have different separate decades combined together. Like I've
Mhm.
always
Mhm.
noticed that film stock from each decade seems to change and look different, and and it's very much the same case in this film as well. And
Yeah.
that kind of gives it a sort of a very distinct, unique, almost
Timeless.
disjointed feel to it. Not negative
Uh-huh.
sense, but that's what
Mhm.
something I observed about it. And yeah, I'll leave
Mhm.
the. Honestly, folks, I'm going to be I'll level with you. Like I did enjoy the movie, and I thought it was fascinating this short film. But Sasha is one of the biggest Kenneth Anger, probably one of the only Kenneth Anger fans I can think of, and he's very well versed on him. So I'll let you take it from here, Sasha.
Well, I mean, I guess I am. It's an acquired taste, but I'm a fan generally of experimental film and of these kind of Maya Deren, Kenneth Anger, and Stan Brakhage, and these kind of underground filmmakers. But yeah. When it comes to the film, it started. He started shooting it in the mid '60s, and basically there was the guy in Bobby Beausoleil, the guy who did the soundtrack for the film, at first was about to star in a lead role, and then there was the argument basically between him and Anger, or at least that's the Anger side of the story. But basically, they split, and Anger said that he stole the footage and ran away with his car, and but later denied that. So there are several stories about that. Basically, from the remaining footage that he had from the first version in the '60s, he combined it and made his 10-minute film, 11-minute film, Invocation of My Demon Brother, and that's with the Mick Jagger score. Very unsettling, disturbing piece of cinema. And then sorry, then he continued shooting with at first the Mick Jagger's brother was about to after that to play the lead role, and then first Mick Jagger was about to play the lead role, and then he kind of distanced himself from Anger in a way. At least that's what they said in the official biography, and suggested his brother, and then his brother was kicked from the lead role during the shooting because at least Anger said, he asked too many questions about the content, and then he found that the lead actor, Huggins, I think was his surname. I forgot his Leslie Huggins, I think. Yeah, and but he appears very briefly in the film. And Marianne Faithfull plays Lilith, and the famous underground counterculture icon Marianne Faithfull, the singer and the actress. Rest in peace. She died recently, and she plays Lilith. and one of the main characters in the film. And the film is basically that it follows the structure of a ritual, but at the same time has that epic scope, epic feeling of it in a way, because it shows like it jumps from the ancient Egypt to the present time, and it has that epic feeling to it in a way. I would say so. It is. At the same time experimental, almost as much as his previous films, Scorpio Rising and Invocation of the Demon Brother, or the inauguration of the Pleasure Dome. But at the same time, it has that kind of a epic feeling, I would say, to which is kind of yeah. And that disjointed feeling, I guess, yeah, I think he used stock footage in a couple of places, like the tiger swimming and the snake being stomped on and things like that. And but that's basically following the logic of the ritual and the logic of dreams. That's basically that might create that feeling. I don't know, but it depends on the viewer. But that's basically what it is. And
I'm not sure if that's stock footage of. I believe you're speaking of that shot of obviously the sea of an elephant stomping on a snake. It's like I'm fairly certain that's falsified. Or do you mean stock footage and that it comes from another movie? Because it's
footage, from the something, basically that he took from somewhere else. He did that a couple of times before also. And he incorporated the elements of other movies or the stuff he shot before or from others movies, so that might fit into the concept because the elephant stomping on the snake at that point means the destruction of chaos, and then which enables like Lucifer to rise basically at that point of the movie, and so it's basically symbolic. It's a metaphorical. It's a symbolic image. But yeah, I think that I don't think he went to Africa or whatever and filmed that. I don't know.
Yeah, but what is it? The idea. My interpretation of the film is that there's this truly primordial feeling about it. It starts off early in the early Egypt part. It's not just the fact that everything's incredibly ancient, and it seems like this otherworldly interpretation of Egypt, not quite like Stargate, but more in a sense of like just this experimental feel really adds to it. But there's also these close-up shots of like just mud bubbling and like crocodiles, which are considered not animals of Egypt, but they're considered. I'm not certain if he did this intentionally, but sort of they're considered living fossils. So you get this feeling, and they're like very large, giant, scary reptiles. So it feels as though he's trying to create this idea of a primordial feeling or something like that. And when you look at the continuity of as it goes through the ages, like some of it takes place in what seems to be Middle Ages or like early modern ages, like the 19th or 18th century, and things of that nature. It jumps around a lot. Some of it's more vague and ambiguous, like scenes of satanic rituals where the characters have these odd makeup on their faces. That one's difficult to truly grasp. I'm not quite certain what Mr. Later on in the film where it's they're doing rituals, I think, and like there's a case of it spinning around, and looking at the movie, I can definitely. I didn't know that. And what is it? It's Sasha. It's just I know this is sort of a youth thing, but I know for those of you who might not be aware, two of Sasha's films that he's very fond of would be 2001: A Space Odyssey and Antichrist by Lars von Trier. And looking at this film, it almost feels like a synthesis of both those films. There's a sensation of the world possibly having been created by Lucifer or Satan or something like that. But it also has like not just the feeling of like going back, like time going back and forth in the travel of time and seeing how mankind has evolved and stuff, shots like that. But there's also, I feel, this very emblematic shot near the middle of the movie, near that sort of satanic ritual where one of the characters turns around. I believe you said it was played by Kenenth Anger. He goes around and walks around on a circle with arcane symbols and occult, like doing an occult ritual, and it shows like all these sorts of special effects and different. The camera goes all nuts, and it reminds me of when Kirdialea's character passes. That I think that what exactly is it? A worm gate or something like that? The iconic shot from one, the Stargate. Yes, it reminded me of that one. So I could definitely sense like this is Yeah, it ticks quite a few boxes for you. So, how do you feel about that? You think that's that fair assessment?
It's certainly it's certainly the film presents that travel through time and breaking of the all like yeah, breaking of the time concept generally, and also that there's that timeless feeling to it basically. First we see the scenes from the ancient Egypt, and then they're connected to the scenes from today. But we see Isis and Osiris, the main gods, one of the main gods and goddesses from the Egyptian mythology, and they connect basically like. Talk with each other like a life and death. There's that concept of duality, like when they're raising a wand and like communicating with each other. It's basically that concept of the duality, which is the basic concept of the whole Western esoteric teachings. Basically, that concept of the so-called opposite sides actually merging. And then we see, I won't go too much into the Egyptian mythology here, but basically the parallel is drawn between Osiris, the god who is killed by his brother Set, and then resurrected, and between him and Lucifer, like basically Lucifer is present, and it should be noted here that Lucifer is not shown here in any connection with Christian religion. And he is basically like this kind of a synthesis of all the pagan solar gods and deities, basically this kind of. So it's not really anti-Christian in that way, but at the same time it is anti-Christian in a way that it shows destruction of the old age and the beginning of the new age. So that's in the, and I'm speaking, and now I'm going into the private territory. I'm speaking this as a Christian because I do appreciate this film on its aesthetic, and even in its in the on the level when the director wants to express his own beliefs with the power of the cinema. He certainly used that to a great extent here. But here Lucifer is not the Christian devil or the Satan. It's basically like a synthesis of all these pagan solar gods. Like he's the force of nature, like a primordial force of the nature and of creativity and of color, especially like there's lots of color scenes where the color is emphasized. And there's the film begins with a volcano erupting, and so there's a nature awakening, basically the powers of nature, which can be very destructive too. But it's basically beginning of the new age. And it's very much connected to the. I mean, Anger is a fan. I mean, he's a follower of Aleister Crowley's teachings of Telema, and his Egyptian mythology is here filtered through the Aleister Crowley's basically teachings. And the Lilith played by the Marian Faithful is basically kind of connected with Set, she's the force of the chaos and destruction, but not the force that should be that should be defeated, basically destroyed. She's basically the force that should be emphasized and fused with, in a way that so the dualities, the two so-called opposing sides fuse again. So there's a parallel between that ancient Egypt mythology and the Lilith is from the several mythologies, but basically in the Jewish mythology she is the Adam's first wife, which refused to be submissive to him and was kicked out of heaven. That's in folklore, not from the direct Christianity or the Bible. That's like from the and she's basically in the Christianity she's presented as she's presented as a demon, basically, there is here she's the force of the destruction, and that we need to the characters need to acknowledge, and in the end basically refused to completely fuse with, but they need to acknowledge her. Basically, that's the story, and that's basically the whole concept is of the all these gods and the combining their forces to start a new age. That's the whole concept of the film, basically. Do you have
That's something I noticed. Just to interlude, that's one of the things I noticed is that on occasions, I take it Aleister Crowley was that character that when they do the rituals, one of the characters is just reading from a book. You'll have to excuse my ignorance because none of the characters are named. This entire film is like essentially a silent film made in the modern era.
Yeah.
There's just music, really good music by, I believe, Bobby Beausoleil. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's fantastic. The cut that Sasha shared with me. Did you say there's different cuts of the movie where with different scores or something of that sort? Or
There's a movie made from the first pieces of the film he shot with him as in the lead role, and these pieces are combined into the film Invocation of My Demon Brother from 1969. But then he had a fight with Anger, basically, and he ran with his car. At least that's what Anger said, and he ended up being, he ended up being a member of the Manson family. And and he committed first murder in a string of murders that happened with that Manson family committed. Not the one with the Sharon Tate, not that day, but like I don't know, a few weeks before that or months. But it was he killed his friend over. There was several versions of the story. There was over a drug deal, or there was over money, whatever. But he was sentenced to death sentence, and then in 1972 it was changed to a life in prison. And basically he's still in prison, and he composed the soundtrack at the end of the 70s from prison. Basically, because in the meantime, Kenenth Anger wanted. Kenenth Anger connected with Jimmy Page, and Jimmy Page did a version of the soundtrack. But then he had a fallout with him because of the various reasons. There, I won't go into details here. Anger said that he didn't provide enough of a music. Jimmy Page said that he did, and but there was a different. Basically, he came back to Bobby Beausoleil, who from the prison composed the whole soundtrack. Basically, by watching the film and composing, he assembled the bands there, and they made the music.
that is completely nuts. What did I tell you, folks? This guy is just an encyclopedia of Kenenth Anger facts. But anyway, back to my original. I was going to mention this, and an observation that I made is I noticed that certain other elements, not just Egyptian, like mythological Egyptian characters like Osiris, as my co-host mentioned, but also there's like. I can't remember. I recall seeing elements or symbols of Hinduism, but also there seemed to be a six-armed Buddha at some point, and I thought
there was a Shiva.
yeah, but it seemed to be more like a Buddha or something of that sort. It was this wasn't a very long or prolonged close-up of any sort, so it's possible I'm missing details. But I remember also seeing elements of and symbolisms from the Buddhist religion, which I thought was interesting. So I take it that's what you were talking about, the idea that all the gods are unifying as one in a single element to create a new religion in the New Age.
New Age, basically new Eon. Yeah, there's that moment of when the Lilith climbs now she's in in that ancient pagan place in Germany, and she's basically like climbing the stairs, and that's basically the final moments of the ritual where she connects in time, back in time with the Egyptian gods, which are like a parallel with Lucifer, and then they combine their forces basically and transfer that. There's that moment of the drop of water, like a dropping into the circle, that sacred circle, basically, and they transfer their power to the Magus, played by Kenenth Anger, who starts the final ritual, and that's basically what it happens. And that's when the film gets more trippy and more, and the music and everything, and basically, and then we see at one point we see Jimmy Page also. He holds the table with the Egyptian inscriptions, and he looks at the picture of Aleister Crowley. We see it at one point, very briefly. We see him after the appearance of the character of Lucifer. So, yeah, there are several pop figures in this film, pop culture, underground pop culture, or not just underground, mainstream. pop figures in this film. And I mean, it's been like a shot during the 10-year period, so it's like he connected with various people, and there's a brother of Mick Jagger at one scene also who refuses basically to talk, to connect with Lilith at the end. Basically, she's like that destructive force is being put away in a way, and that's and he is shown in close to the wall of one of the Egyptian temples. And there's an image of the Sphinx, like, which is also in the Anger also makes a parallel between the Sphinx and the Lucifer character, and there's these kind of things. And in the end, there's like these images of the explosions and destruction, which should be like a symbolic of the destruction of the old age and the beginning of the new eon, basically like the eon of the beauty and creativity in a way. But that's by connected with his own interpretations of the teachings of Crowley. But it's basically so in that way, Lucifer is really not the Christian thing here at all. But at the same time, the film does show the destruction of the old age, which Anger equates with Christian age and the beginning of the new age. So in that way, it is anti-Christian, but at the same time, the character of Lucifer is not Satan from the Bible, not even the fallen angel from the. But that's basically, it was kind of combination of many things. These
seems almost fitting because modern day Satanists, there's several schools of it, but one outright explicitly says that they're technically atheists, but it's more of a philosophy than an actual religion. They don't truly believe in an afterlife, or sort of the elements that we normally ascribe to religion, like elements that are not almost not of this world, like spiritual elements of some sort. They're quite like that. So it makes sense that it'd be interesting if that was the interpretation for Lucifer. But also something I've noticed is that, this is a very experimental and trippy film. Like, you have to take it as is. I've mentioned this both to my co-host several times. This film to my co-host several times. It's called Angel's Eggs. It's from the mid '80s. It has a similar vibe of sorts. You watch it, and obviously the first time you see it, you're not going to get, especially if you don't have any details, you're not going to get too many details. But watching this film initially, and I believe this is my second time, it's if you pay attention, it is still a rewarding experience. It's just it's difficult to get too much out of it the first time, but Kenenth Anger definitely has quite the eye for how he directs his films. This is a film unlike any other, and it takes cinema in a very unusual and esoteric directions. And ultimately, I did enjoy it. And it's obviously, I hope everyone else is enjoying this podcast. So has enjoyed this podcast so far. But I really do enjoy both viewing the film and especially discussing it. And I'm pleased, and I hope other people will discover the film in the future as well. So, that was my take on it.
Yeah, basically that was his also like not testament film, but he made films after that. Mouse Heaven is quite interesting, but which consists of the images of the Mickey Mouse from the various periods of time. He's a fan of Mickey Mouse, but he also gives him kind of a mythical elements in that film too. And this film is his like synthesis of his ideas in a way, and into one film, and it's kind of one of the more famous, I would say, one of the more famous underground films of all time, basically. I mean, as I said, it's quite interesting to discover and discuss these films, especially if you come like me from the different religious or spiritual point of view. But as still, it's interesting to recognize the strength and the power of the film, and the talent and the will to express the ideas through the medium of film. I mean, he used he really believes in magic, like not the rabbit out of the hat magic, but the actual like magic in this area, and he uses camera as his tool basically. And this film is a result of that, as are his other films. So it definitely has my recommendation, but it's not for everyone, in a way that it can be an acquired taste, and some people might be a little bit put off by it or offended, whatever. But it is not usually not what people think it is when we mention the name first and things like that. But it is quite interesting experience, and I definitely recommend it. And
yeah, likewise. It's art house. It's very esoteric. I think it's like high risk, high reward cinema, where it creates a bit of a cult feeling per se. Like some people will be completely put off by it, like almost like compared to an it's a bit like that. It's a bit like say an exploitation movie. Some people will be completely turned off, but some people will turn it into a cult film and watch it over and over again and make it give it the film its own following of sorts. And that's quite precisely what this film is. It's quite difficult to grasp, but there is the visuals and especially the audio are quite impressive, and the history and the readings behind the film can be quite something. It's something to watch with say friends or colleagues or something, and to discuss afterwards how you interpret or how you view it, or possibly we don't make any recommendations, but it might be one of those films where it's better enjoyed with mind-altering substances. Not that we're suggesting anything, but that's all I'll say. That's about all I'll say. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I'm sure. It was definitely used with that. Yeah. Yeah. That would be basically all for this episode. I think. Yeah, we in one of the following episodes we will cover some of the movies by the great Gene Hackman, and rest in peace. And we'll. We'll hear each other in 2 weeks. So far, we are still publishing an episode every 2 weeks, and we'll see if we might switch to 1 week. But so far, we're going 2 week. We're sticking with the 2 week schedule. Okay, thank you for listening, and hope you enjoyed this episode. And speak soon. Bye.